Good morning, guys. Episode 27 starts in 30 seconds. What is up, everybody? This episode is brought to you by Dent Mechanic Group. This is the time of year here in Texas where we get a lot of hail and damage just happens to your car. If you get any dent damages, or contact my buddy Tim at 239-825-7711. Tim will take care of you. Tell him JC Ortega, the bald guy, sent you. My next guest, I'm so excited about this. My next guest is, if you're a wrestling fan and you're watching the 80s and you saw Dusty Rhodes or you saw the Horsemen, the great Baby Doll was not far behind. She was right there with them, and she was so fun to watch. And let's bring her on. How are you? Hey, Ms. Roberts.
I'm well, thank you.
I am so happy to have you on and very excited. I used to watch you when I was a kid. Hated you and then loved you.
I hope you hated me a lot, because that meant I was doing my job.
Exactly. You did your job well. You did your job very well. Before we get into that, let's hear your background. What's your background? Let's hear, I know your dad had his own promotion, right?
Right.
So let's hear about you being your background, where you're from, and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, first of all, when people say that they've been in professional wrestling all their life, I literally have been in professional wrestling all my life. Both my parents were professional wrestlers. My mom, Lorraine Johnson, my dad, Nick Roberts. They wrestled predominantly in the 50s and early 60s. My dad continued to wrestle on with the promotion going into Lubbock when there was like special referees, sorry, cat knocked it down. I just got this stand so that this wouldn't happen, and sure enough, first thing it happened. Had the promotion so that when they needed a special referee or some big blow up with a match, they bring in my dad as like the enforcer type thing. So my dad wrestled up until like the early 70s. My dad and mom started promotion in 1960, or started their promotion in 1962. It was already established with Sled Allen, and promoted out of Fair Park Coliseum in Lubbock, Texas. And my dad promoted for well over 20 years. I think it was close to 23 years.
Wow.
And we ran every week. We ran every Wednesday for, I want to say like 18 years. And then we went to Friday nights. But we ran a Fair Park Coliseum. It even had on the back of Fair Park Coliseum wrestling every Wednesday night. And the only time that we took off during the week was that when the fair was in, we had the week off. And sometimes at Christmas it would, but otherwise it was full blown. That was our job. That's what my dad did. That was his career as a wrestling promoter. And
he wasn't part of the NWA, right? He wasn't part of the NWA.
Yes, we had being part of the NWA, and I've got my NWA hard time shirt on. I was expecting Mike to be on. I was going to show him my shirt, but no, I love it. I still represent the NWA. It's my home. It's how I grew up, with world champions such as Harley Race, Terry Funk, Dory Funk Jr. I got to see them all. My dad being part of the NWA, twice a year, we got the world's champion as part of the agreement. And so I just recently hit up Harley's son and told him that whenever I met your dad, I remember that he had all these suitcases. Like usually the guys just carry one suitcase into the building. No, Harley had like three. He had two big, like traveling Samsonite suitcases, along with a big fold-up bag, and he could barely carry it. This was like way before wheels were even invented on suitcases, and I couldn't imagine like having to travel, and carrying all that. And nobody carries bags, and nobody was carrying his bag or anything. He was doing it, and so I told Harley's son that I remember selling them Girl Scout cookies. He bought like every box of Girl Scout cookies I had down there. And his son was just like, well, I think I got to eat some of those cookies, because if my dad was carrying a lot of bags, that meant that me and my mom were traveling with him. So I thought that was really cool. I grew up watching Terry Funk. I got to see some of his very first matches. Terry is a reason why I love professional wrestling. I grew up with my dad on Saturdays doing the promos, and promoting the following week's show. And it was, for someone that loves professional wrestling, I had the perfect family. I really did. I was so blessed. I am blessed.
How did you get into wrestling? How did you become a wrestler?
Ooh,
when did you become a wrestler? I know you wrestled for a period of time, right?
Well, I didn't really wrestle. I was a valet. And a valet is different than a manager or wrestling or anything. A valet accompanies a wrestler to the ring, takes a jacket. For me, I took the job very seriously because I actually made like the plane reservations, hotel reservations. I went and got the rent-a-cars. I just wasn't there just to walk down to the ring. I actually was a valet for Tully. But I actually got into it, and I was so very fortunate because back in the day, there weren't, unless you wrestled, there weren't any spots for girls. And yes, there were a lot of really talented women at the time. Wendy Richter was coming up. We had Susan Green. Moolah was wrestling. I'm trying to think. There were a lot of Velvet McIntyre. Oh my gosh, she's so good. Lalani Kai. They all came through. And unless you were going to wrestle, there really wasn't a spot for you. And so that might have worked out, but I'm like a really big girl. I'm 5'10". Back then, I was probably like 190, 200 pounds. There weren't any girls that were even close to my size. And so this was way before China and the whole like being really athletic. So just by chance, I heard my parents talking that they were looking for a girl to accompany Gino. At the time, they had brought in Sunshine, and Sunshine was, oh my gosh, she had the face. She was just perfect for the job to work with Chris Adams and Freebirds and who else she was working with. So, and at the time, it was Jimmy Garvin had brought in Precious, and then, had brought in Sunshine. So it was Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine. So Sunshine had some health issues. She had to go into rehab and get straight. And so there was a period of like the 90 to 120 days there. And so while she was gone, to keep the girl thing going, they brought in Stella Mae French. Stella Mae was Sunshine's truck driving aunt that for fun would beat up truckers in the parking lot with a baseball bat or an axe handle, something like that. She was like known for beating up truckers. So she was at that time Gino Hernandez's nemesis, and at that time you could not, like, the guys couldn't touch the girls. And if they had mixed tags, like if a girl tagged out to the male partner, then the other girl had to get out of the ring and tag the other person in, because it was always male and male or female and female. There was it was taboo for a man to even touch a woman back then. So they needed someone for Gino to bring in as like take care of him so that he didn't have to worry about Stella. And they were talking about maybe a black girl, like a big black girl or something, and like really like get some heat with that and the whole thing, and because that would be like totally opposite of what you would think that Gino would come in with. So I got the idea that would be perfect for me. So I stole my dad's black book because it had all the phone numbers in there and all the contacts, and went down to a boyfriend's house and called Sportatorium. And in the black book, it actually had Sportatorium written out. Wow. So I called the office just hoping. I had no clue what to do. And David Manning answered the phone. And David and I had been friends. I'd known David for years because I had sold merch for the Von Erichs, and David was in charge of the merch. So he would send stuff up to Lubbock, and then I would send the money back of whatever I'd sold that week. And Von Erichs did really well on merch. So David answered the phone. I was like, "Hey, this is Nickla, and I hear you're looking for a girl for Gino, and that would you consider me?" I said, I'm smart and I'm pretty, and I think I would be exactly what you want. And David was like, "That was a great idea." He said, "We are just getting ready to go up and have a meeting with Fritz, and I'll let him know what you think and just see how it goes." He says, "I love the idea. Let me just see what Fritz thinks." So he says, "I'll call you right back." So I'm waiting, half hour, 45 minutes later, sure enough, David calls back and he said, "Fritz loves the idea." He says, "Just absolutely perfect. You're going to work out exactly with what they have in mind." So he said, "The only problem is," he said, "who's going to tell your dad?" So I was thinking, well, if I'm going to be a big girl, I better put my big girl pants on and get this taken care of. So yes, I told my parents, and it was it didn't go over well. I was going to school. I was a full-time student at Texas Tech University, and I was training to be an EMT. Well, I was full-time student at Texas Tech, plus I was going to school to be an EMT because I wanted to go to Colorado and be a ski patrol and work in the national park system, because I figured I could work in the parks during the summertime and then ski patrol during the wintertime. And that way I would know all the very best fishing places in the national parks, and I could go whenever I wanted to. And so told him that I was going to quit school and go down to Dallas and work with World Class Championship Wrestling. So I packed up my car and went, and first show was Joe and Harry Coliseum in San Antonio. It was the Sunday before Labor Day. And as far as I know, it was sold out. It seemed like it was sold out. And whenever they came in the dressing room to kind of tell me what was going to go on with the match, they told me like 7 things of where I had to be, what I had to do, the whole thing to get through the match. Gino was wrestling Mike Von Erich, and whenever it was Gary Hart and Ken Mantell and Gino and Stella, Mike, and myself in the dressing room. So when and I remember Ken Mantell saying, "Now, do you know exactly what we want from you?" And I was like, "You want me to be big and tall and look like I can kick someone's ass?" And he was like, "That is exactly what we want." So I had my so in all the gimmick, they'd never told me like what to wear or how to look. They just gave the idea that they had of like what they wanted. So this was like 84. So it was like punk rock. I had spiked my hair, had done the streak, wore the glasses, the leather, the chains, the whole thing. I figured that I looked as badass as I could, and did the spot where Stella was in the aisleway going to the ring, hit her with a loaded sock, beat her up. Everybody's going crazy because they had no idea who I was. They thought that someone had attacked Stella, and then went to the ring and then had a couple things in the match. But what really got me was that whenever they left the dressing room, and I've got, that couple minutes before we're going out to the ring, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how they do it. They had no idea they had smartened me up. I kind of, because of the thousands of matches I'd seen before and the whole thing, I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And I didn't know until that moment of like how intricate and what the delicate dance was that we do. And it was just kind of crazy, because I don't think that even to this day, and until they found out that I said, like, "Hey, you smartened me up," they didn't know that they'd smartened me up. So that's how I got in, just by a phone call and being in the right place at the right time and having what they want. It was, and it's been, I've been blessed so many times of being at the right place at the right time and having the right look, and just, it was destiny.
How was it working for WCCW and in the Sportatorium?
Mm-hmm.
How was it? How was that?
It was everything that everybody says it is and more. Because until you get in there and you step through there and the whole encompassing and feel the mat and feel like how hard it is, and be up in the cage where the wives sat, and the concessions and the whole thing, it was magical. It really was. I really look forward to the time, because my dad got to go a couple of times a year to do special refereeing spots with them, or being a part of the office with World Class, that he would go down and have business meetings, and then we get to watch a show on Friday night and everything. So it was whatever anybody tells you it was all that and more. Truly, it really was.
How was Gino? How was Gino?
What you see on TV is Gino.
That's exactly 100%, right? That's what I heard.
And
I did hear how he was on TV. That's how he was in real life. And
100%, maybe even more. I mean, he might have toned it down for TV because he was so much more. Gino, and it was really crazy because I thought I knew Gino, because I'd had a crush on Gino since I was like 15, 16 years old. And here I am in 1984. So I would have been like 22. So, for 5-6 years, I'd had this huge crush on him and just thought that he was dreamy. And now I've got this dream job and the whole thing. And we only made one road trip together, and he drove me to Abilene, but then he left me. He didn't like leave me. He made sure that I rode back with Bronco, but he actually left and went somewhere else after the show. And I have no idea but after I saw the Dark Side of the Ring, I realized Gino had not like 2 lives going, or 3. He had like 5 different lives and personas going on. I had no idea he was married. I had no idea he had kids. I knew about the bar in Houston and his friend and kind of the questionable like gambling and maybe drugs and stuff like that, but nothing like what was exposed in Dark Side. But yeah, that was Gino. And Gino for sure, like for a year, carried that picture of Farrah Fawcett, because he just thought that that was his star symbol right there, was this picture with Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, I saw that episode of Dark Side of the Ring. That Dark Side of the Ring is a very depressing show.
Well,
especially for us fans.
Though. I mean, yeah, it
agree.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And you know the Von Erichs since you were young, right?
Oh, I knew him like in high school. Carrie helped me improve my technique throwing discus. I also took him to the gym a couple of times when they stayed over, and like if we had like a double shot where they would work Lubbock one night and then maybe a spot show, like the day after or day before, and then they would want to go to the gym. I'd take them to the gym and we'd play racquetball. So yeah, I knew them for several years before I knew Gino. I probably knew Tully longer than all of them. Then I knew Gino after that, and then the Von Erichs right after that. And it was cool because World Class, we were like worldwide. We were the first wrestling show that literally was worldwide, because they hit the satellite and were on the Christian networks. So when it was World Class Championship Wrestling, it really was across the world.
Were the Von Erichs really as wild as everybody make them seem to be, or were they?
They weren't. They were really nice boys. I mean, they loved their fans. They just loved being who they were. They one story that I have about Kerry Von Erich that really kind of sums it all up. We were standing in the back of the building in Lamesa, and Lamesa is a small town. You probably know where Lamesa is at, but it's outside of Lubbock, about maybe 60 miles. And it's a farm town. It's farming and ranching. And so it was like right before the show's supposed to start, and it's got the they had like the big doors open, so that they could get some air in the building. And Carrie's standing back there, and there's fans like walking past us and everything. And this little girl was like running and playing and having a good time. She's probably like 6, 7 years old. And Carrie was like, "Come here." And he said, turn around. And so her hair was like really messed up. And Kerry had his comb and had a brush and was like brushing his hair. And he said, let me take care of this. And so he brushed that girl's hair. And she's like standing there, like she could tell, like she thought that he was going to hurt her. But in fact, he was just so kind and so gentle and told her, you're such a pretty girl. You need to brush your hair so that you're just as pretty as you can be. And he got the hair so nice and was talking so gentle to her. And she just melted. And he says, here, you can have my brush and make sure you keep your hair brushed because boys like girls that have nice hair. How sweet is that, you know? And that's the boys summed up right there. They were all good-hearted, kind-hearted. They absolutely loved their fans. They loved who they were. It was phenomenal to be a part of all that.
They were real life superheroes. I mean,
yes.
they were like superheroes. Are you still in communication with Kevin?
I haven't seen Kevin for a couple of years, but I'm looking forward to seeing him in August at the Gathering in Charlotte. So yes, definitely. And I've seen his boys. I've seen his boys a couple of times, Ross and Marshall. They were at Ric Flair's last match. I actually got to meet them and ride the van to the show with them and everything. They're just so sweet. Just really, really good guys.
That's awesome.
And that's great. I have not watched the Iron Claw. I know that's probably the question coming up. I kind of waited to see the reviews and everything of like, because wrestling movies don't always portray us in the most glamorous light. So I was kind of waiting to see like how that worked out. I really wanted to see it because of who they got to portray the Freebirds. Now that may be one reason why I see them, because I want to see Brady and Silas as Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy. But I didn't want to see it because from what I had heard, and this is just is that people that know the Von Erichs didn't really like the movie because it's not historically accurate and it doesn't portray the guys in a really good light. And they just completely left out Chris. And I thought that was so demeaning.
I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet.
There's nothing about Chris. And I thought that was so demeaning and so trifle of them, because Chris just wanted to be a part of all of that, and he wasn't. And then to make a movie where you completely left him out, you completely left out Chris again. And that's one of the reasons why he committed suicide, because he just didn't fit in. So now you're making it even worse. So I can't support something that was so demeaning to someone who was my friend.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I mean, I had not seen the movie. I thought everybody was going to be. I thought they were going to mention everybody.
Right? No, the people that aren't wrestling fans and that don't know the Von Erichs really like the movie. People that like wrestling and know the Von Erichs really didn't have. I haven't heard one person say that's a great movie. That was super awesome, and the whole thing. It just seemed. I'm
so disappointed. I wanted to watch it.
Now you do want to see it. Now Brady Pierce and Silas Mason, who play Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, perfect. I mean, they could not have casted that better. Oh yes, absolutely great. Yes, especially Silas. Silas looks just like Terry Gordy.
I used to love Terry Gordy. Yes. I used to love his wrestling. I used to love the thumb and he was awesome.
Yeah.
He was great.
And see, I miss those days of wrestling now, because now the guys are so little that whenever, you kind of walk into the bar, they don't look like they could beat somebody up. You know what I'm saying? I liked traveling with the Freebirds and the Von Erichs and the whole thing, because if we walked into somewhere, people knew that these guys could take care of whatever they wanted to take care of. And now you got little bitty guys that do flippy floppy, which is great, and everything changes. I just have a preference to the big guys like Terry Gordy and Dr. Dusty Williams and Bruiser Brody and oh my gosh, Kamala. The guys that and even like with Kerry and Kevin. I mean, they're like 6'1" and 6'2" maybe, but they look like they can beat somebody up. Some of these guys. Not so much today.
I remember watching a shoot interview by the late King Kong Bundy, and he said that. He mentioned that. He goes, he said about Chris. Oh man, what's his the wrestler Chris Y2J Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho. He said that he had just taken a dump earlier that morning, bigger than Chris Jericho.
Right?
He said, no disrespect to Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's great, but he said that the guys, same thing you just said, that the guys nowadays are not as big as they were back in the days. You know, they were bigger than life.
Back in the day, like whenever Harley Race walked into a bar or an airport, everybody is like, who is that guy? You know, that's somebody, you know. And like with the Sheik, I remember picking up the Sheik, and he had the beautiful gold jewelry and the silk shirts that you could tell that the shirts were expensive, and the suit. And when he walked through the airport, even though you didn't know wrestling, you knew he was somebody just by how he carried himself. Now, whenever you go to shows and some of the fan fests, I can't even tell the guys from the fans sometimes, because it's just, you know, dress your gimmick, be somebody, but what do I know, right?
So how long were you in WCCW before you went to? When did you get in? You went to WCCW in the early '80s, and then you weren't there long because you went to the NWA in '84, right?
Couple of the timeline of it was I went to World Class Wrestling. My first match was the Sunday before Labor Day, so that's like September, right? So the first weekend of September, and then I worked September, October, November, and then because we worked the Cotton Bowl, we had Reunion Arena, we had big shows. It was going. It was a good time to be in that promotion, and then the Christmas Day and the day after were my last two shows. Sunshine had come back. She looked fabulous. I mean, because they brought her in from the helicopter, and she flew into Cotton Bowl, and just, she had the face, she had the body, everything was perfect. Rehab really, really helped her. And so we all knew, Stella and I knew, that once she came back, we were done, because our time, you know, that now they were going to go run with Sunshine, and our time was through. Well, I had two more shots. I had Christmas Day and the day after, and that would have been 1984 in Florida, and it was Tampa and Miami. And so, or Miami and then Tampa. And whenever I flew in and got the rent-a-car, I knew that Michael Hayes was a booker for Florida. So, and I knew Michael for like years. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just move to Florida if they want me. So whenever I landed, I went to the first liquor store I could find and bought this crazy, you know, like the promotional bottles of Jack Daniels. And it was like a clown size. It was so big. And so whenever I saw Michael, I was like, hey, Michael, how are you doing? Because I want to say, here's a present, and figured that would impress him. And told him, you know, like, these were my last shows, and that I still wanted to continue wrestling, and that would, you know, did they have a spot for me, and that could he use me? And he was like, no. He said he was getting ready to close up Florida because it was starting to slow down, that he was going to bring it back up closer to the summer, that what I needed to do was go in the next dressing room, because that's where Dusty was. And he said, Dusty, and he said, quote unquote, is getting ready to blow up the Carolinas. And he said, that's who you need to talk to. So I kind of wanted to get that Jack Daniels bottle back, but it was already down the hall. So I went over to the next dressing room, and there was Dusty sitting in a chair, and Tully was right off to his side, and they're like talking, and gave him my spiel. I was like, hey, you know, I've been working here, and I'd like to continue. And I knew both Tully and Dusty, and was hoping maybe they saw something in me that, you know, that they could promote. And I had no idea that they were actually looking for a girl for Tully at the time. They had already run the contest for the Perfect 10, for the perfect woman for Tully. They had run the commercials and asked for video and pictures, whatever the girls wanted to send, to impress Tully that they would be the perfect woman for Tully and be able to travel with him. And be like his right hand. And I had no idea that they were looking for a girl, but I just happened to be exactly what they wanted. And Dusty even said that as soon as I walked in, it was like, that's her. That's what we're looking for. And the next thing I know, I had given my spiel. I had a match with Stella that later on that night, and so they didn't tell me anything at the time. So whenever I went out to the ring, Dusty's standing outside of his dressing room door, and Tully is standing outside of his dressing room door. And in my mind, I thought, if they're still standing outside that room whenever I get done, I said, I've got the job. If they're not standing out there, I'm done. I don't have anything to do. So finished my match, tried to do really good. Got the win. Everything's good. Big heel. I look out and they're both standing there. Yes. Sure enough, they were like, when can you start? You're exactly what we want. And so that was supposed to start at the end of February, but then I started getting phone calls of like, well, can you start like mid-February? Do you think you can make it up here then? And then it was just like, well, then Dusty called. It was like, well, we kind of want to get this thing started. Can you start the 1st of February? I was like, I can be there whenever you want. And he says, head on this way. So sure enough, the end of January, I was packed up my car and headed to North Carolina, and the rest is history after that, because I started with Tully, and we ran for almost a year with it.
Now, question: did you prefer the valet or actually getting in the ring and wrestling?
Oh, valeting. Yeah, I can be a much better heel. There's no bumps. I know if I can do anything and not take a bump and get paid and build heat or be the sweetest baby face there ever was, of course. But I'd much rather be a heel. I loved being a heel. I like the heat. The only thing I didn't like about being a heel is you get beat all the time. Heels hardly ever win. I remember asking Tully one time, because we had like over a month of just getting beat. The only time we won was on TV. And he says, are you making good money? I was like, yeah. He says, are you working on top? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. He says, are you working against the booker? And I was like, yeah. He said, it don't get better than that. He says, we'll get beat every night if that's what they want. And it made sense.
I remember hearing that he was a very
he got the spot where he was working with Dusty every night. Dusty was basically a night off. We were on the 18th. The only problem was that we were probably also on the card with Flair. And because Flair, they got the cut for the NWA, then you had the Booker taking his cut. Then Flair got his money, Dusty got his money. We didn't get as big of the pot as, like, let's say, the show that had Ricky and Rock and Roll Express against Midnight on it. So they made more money than we did, but we were working against the Booker, so it all worked out.
And it's funny you said that, because you answered a question I was going to ask. You enjoy being a heel more than a baby face. Mm-hmm. Why is that? I hear that more. I hear that from a lot of wrestlers. They prefer being the heel. It's more fun.
A baby face to me is, I don't want to say fake or phony, but you have to be smiling, and and especially for a girl, you have to have your makeup. You have to be exactly what they see on TV, because if you're not, then you're going to disappoint them. With a heel, I can put on the glasses, go in. I don't have to have makeup. I can wear the jacket. I don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to be as social. With a baby face, it's really good because you get all the merch sales and the guys got all the girls. Well, with me, I mean, I wasn't into all the guys, and hooking up after the matches was definitely not my thing. So I think being a baby face is better if you're wanting to get hooked up and sell merch. But if you're a true wrestler, I don't want to really say it that way, but for me to be true to myself, I'm a heel. And I was so fortunate because I spent a couple of months riding with Jake, and who was my ex-brother-in-law. He wasn't my brother-in-law at the time, but riding with Jake, he taught me so much about slow down, walk slow to the ring, make them look at you, talk low, make them listen to you. And I learned so much, and it's an art. And for me to be able to make 20,000 people hate me and not even know me, I'm really good at being a heel.
Yeah,
And
you
I
were.
guarantee you, to this day, in 1985, Baby Doll had more heat than any female ever in the sport of professional wrestling. No one had the heat that I did. No one will ever have the heat that I did.
Listen, those wrestling fans like me that grew up watching it back then, remember your name. The only other name that you might remember is Miss Elizabeth.
Oh yeah. And I was before
Yeah.
Elizabeth. I was the inspiration
Right.
for Elizabeth, because I started in September of 84 and she was August of 85. The only ones that were like before me, we had Sunshine, which I guess was like 83. Then you had Nancy, Fallen Angel. She started July of 84.
Nancy
She
Benoit,
started
yeah.
July of 84 with Kevin down in Florida. So she was before I was, but she didn't have the exposure that I did. And then Miss Elizabeth, or Miss Linda, who was with Adrian Street, I think she started like early 80s, maybe late 70s, working with Adrian. So but she wasn't as prominent as like what I was able to be featured as. Dusty really put a lot into my character. He loved Baby Doll. He called me his Marilyn. I was his Marilyn Monroe. And it was so cool. It was just to be the
I
only
bet.
girl and to be featured like what I was. It was just a dream come true. It was a dream I didn't know I had, but it was a dream come true.
I remember that storyline. Besides that, that's one of the greatest rivals was Tully Blanchard and Dusty. I
Right.
remember that storyline when Tully slaps you,
Mm-hmm.
and then Dusty comes to your rescue. David Crockett there defending you, and Dusty comes out. Then you become Dusty's valet.
Right.
How was that?
It
How was
was
how
See, it wasn't even supposed to happen that way. It was just
was
one of
it?
those things. Tully and I had done the whole circuit, and Tully had just had his match with Magnum in the I Quit match. He'd lost his belt. He had lost the I Quit match, and Tully never did say I quit. To this day, I can say Tully never said I quit, which was perfect for that match. In my opinion, the build up to the I Quit match with Tully and Magnum is textbook pro wrestling. It told the story. It put everybody over. It just it made sense. It was progressive. Everything built up to this huge match of saying I quit, and then Tully not saying I quit was accumulation of it, because still to this day Tully can say I never said I quit. So it was so perfect. So we've done this whole gamut of working, with Dusty and Magnum. So we really had done everything. It was time to go to the next step. Well, Buddy Landell had just sold out Raleigh, North Carolina, going against Flair. Buddy Landell was hot. And so he had the crowd going. He was a good baby. He could be babyface. He could be heel, the whole thing. So Dusty had it where he was going to pair up Buddy against Flair and have him run, and then put me with Buddy as an added incentive. And that made sense for me to go with Buddy and then work against the title with Flair. It made so much sense. It was going to make a lot of money. Nature Boy against Nature Boy. Both guys could work. Then you got Baby Doll there. Oh my gosh, this was going to be a huge 1986. But unfortunately, as we all know, Buddy Landell loved cocaine. And he really loved cocaine. And so he went on a bender and nobody knew where he was for a couple of days. And then he was supposed to be at TV where we were going to turn, and he no-showed. And Dusty was so mad. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've seen a man madder than that in all my life. Because here he was putting everything in the basket for Buddy to work against Flair. That's every wrestler's dream. That's the epitome of where you want to reach. So Buddy went on this bender and twister, and nobody knew where he was at. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? If I don't have Tully and I don't have Buddy, but then Dusty was just like, I'm going to turn her baby face. I'm going to turn her baby face. And so, okay. So that's how we worked it out. And we did the deal with JJ supposedly giving me the ticket to Acapulco, and I couldn't explain where I was for a week. And it was like, well, JJ, you gave me the ticket and all. And what's crazy is we kind of had the idea of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Da, 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 da. We never worked out a dialogue. We never worked out a script. There was no one told us. We just basically knew that Tully and I were going to argue about a ticket to Acapulco. JJ was going to come in, defend himself. Tully was going to slap me, and then Dusty was going to come out, and they wanted me to be like, Dusty was King Kong and I was Fay Ray. So that's why I did the deal where I'm like between his legs and holding on to his legs, because I figured that was perfect Fay Ray. And it worked. I mean, everybody went nuts, and nobody saw me turning against Flair in August. We had such a good run up until, August. Dusty won the world championship, and it was so cool. And then working with Dusty, it was, oh my gosh, I love that man so much. He gave me so much, and it was just, I can't say I'm blessed more than I can, but I'm truly blessed to have worked with truly the best of the best in professional wrestling, from Gino to Tully to Jake to Flair, the whole thing. I mean, I did the Great American Bash. I mean, how many girls get to tag team with the Road Warriors and Rock and Roll Express and Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA? I mean, it was awesome. So awesome.
I mean, you mentioned legendary names, and unfortunately, most of them are not with us anymore. They've, and every time I hear one of them passing, I thought, man, I grew up watching these guys, man. And,
right.
And then I told my wife, babe, so died. She goes, who?
Oh, I could easily probably name over 100 guys that I worked with that are no longer with us. And that's crazy because no other profession has a death rate. But it's to me, I think a lot of it was because muscle relaxers were so prevalent back then, and it was so easy to take a couple of muscle relaxers and drink a beer and relax, and that way your body didn't hurt so bad, and then that way you could keep functioning and keep going to the next town. Because really, the first year that I worked with Tully in 1985, we had 15 days off the whole year. There were no weekends. There were no holidays. We went solid for 15, except for 15 days out of the whole year. So when you think of the toll that takes on your body, because the guys now, they might work one house show during the week and then work the weekend. I mean, Roman Reigns worked hadn't had a match since January, and he was their champion. That doesn't make sense. I mean, our guys were working all the time because you were successful. You didn't depend on merch sales. You depended on how many tickets you sold.
I remember when I used to watch like a TV taping, or like, on Saturday night, and then the commercials, they'll mention on Monday in North Carolina, see Ric Flair. That same night in another city, you'll see Dusty Rhodes. The same night. Multiple
we were running
locations.
2 and 3 towns. Yeah, Dusty had it where there were 2 solid towns every night, and sometimes 3. So we had A team, B team, and a C team. So like Monday was Columbia, Tuesday was TV, which TV was usually within 40 miles of Charlotte, so that the TV truck could get back and edit the tape so that we could do promos Wednesday morning. And we would do promos until basically they gave us our checks Wednesday afternoon so that we could go to the bank. Then we would go to like Raleigh, Norfolk, Richmond, drive 300 miles back to catch a 7 o'clock flight to fly to Atlanta so that we could do TV all day. We would have to do the 2-hour 6:05 show. Plus then we did the hour Sunday show. And then we would fly out to Baltimore, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Chicago, wherever for Saturday night, then fly back to Charlotte on Sunday morning. Hopefully we didn't have a double shot, but if we had a double shot like Asheville or Roanoke, we'd have to get in our car and go directly to the next show for Sunday afternoon and then Sunday night, then drive back and then start it all over again.
I'm exhausted just hearing that. I'm exhausted just hearing that.
Right.
And
yeah.
then people,
It was so
wonder,
fun though. It was just so fun.
And then a lot of people, many people that don't know, they blame a lot of these deaths. Oh, they were all on drugs. That's why they die. And no, it's not.
I
They
think
weren't
that
all
with muscle,
drug.
I think that with muscle relaxers, what people don't realize is that your brain and your lungs and your heart, all your brain's not a muscle, it's an organ, but your brain and your heart and your lungs rather are muscles. And if you take a muscle relaxer, it's not specifying on like your bicep or your shoulder or your leg, wherever your pain is at. It's relaxing all your muscles. So if you're taking too much, then at some point, and I think this has happened with several guys, that their heart and their lungs just relax so much that when they go to sleep, that part of your brain that keeps your heart beating and your lungs going just doesn't function anymore and they die.
Yeah. You were married to Sam Houston, and so part of the Smith family. You mentioned Jake Roberts. How was that family? Grizzly Smith. Did you have a relationship with Grizzly Smith? I know Grizzly Smith didn't have a good relationship with Jake Roberts. And how was your relationship with that family?
I have a great relationship with Jake. I still have a good relationship with Sam and his wife Kimberly. I mean, God bless her. I mean, that is like, you pray for people and pray for forgiveness and pray that they see the light and pray for goodness. And he's the father of my two children, and I have nothing but good to say about Sam. Hold on. That was rude. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Sam and I have been through a lot, and I forgive him for everything. I mean, I think he's finally seen the light, and sobriety is very kind to him. And he's got a beautiful wife, and they live outside of Charlotte, and I'm very, very, very happy for him. And the Smith family is like any wrestling family. It's crazy beyond words. I mean, we are who we are. I know that whenever I first started dating Sam, Tully said, how old are you? And I think I was like 24 at the time. And I might have been 23. And so he was like, oh, you're too old. It's okay. And I didn't get what he said until later on when I started hearing rumors about Grizz. And there were so many rumors about Grizz. And it was in wrestling, there's a lot of rumors and a lot of stories and a lot of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And so you just don't know what to believe. So all that time that I traveled with Grizz and with Sam, because when we were working UWF, I traveled a lot with Grizz. And yeah, there were some stuff that I saw that was questionable, but not anything that I could go, that's it. That right there, that's wrong. Because we picked up girls several times that were young and underage, but like their families pretty much put them in the car so that they could go take a road trip with the wrestlers. And when you think about it, there is an innocence to it, because here are these people that are bigger than life. Hey, you want that? And then they're going to take your kid for a couple of days to go on a road trip. You have nothing to think that anything bad's going to happen. They're just, there's a certain innocence about it, but then you're going, why are you letting a young girl get in a car with a bunch of us? And I looked, believe me, I looked for anything. I looked for any girl to go like, or a message or a note, or I saw nothing the whole time. And even now to this day, it was questionable that girls went on road trips with us. But even though I was right there, I never saw anything that was out of line. And even that the other girls that traveled with us, the other girl wrestlers, they never saw it either. But then again, knowing about molesters and bad people like who Grizz has turned out to be, they know how to hide it. They really do. And to this day, I feel bad for Robin, because I wish that I had known what was going on. I wish I could have helped her. I wish that I don't know what I would have done. I would have done something. I really would have, because that was uncalled for.
Yeah, from what I hear, she didn't come out till way later on. Way later.
Right.
You know. Yeah. But I'm so refreshing to hear that you and Sam and his wife have a good relationship now, and that's awesome.
Well, what's funny is because my husband says exes are exes for a reason, but for me, you have to heal beyond that. And yeah, it was, Sam didn't treat me that well. He didn't treat the girls that well, but it's water under the bridge, and he was dealing with a lot of addiction problems at the time, and addicts are who they are, and it's whether you recover or not. And Sam has been able to recover and have healthy relationships, and he's got good relationships with his daughters now, and
Awesome.
Everything's good. So I mean, it's, if you believe in God and you're a Christian, which I am, and it's something that you have to go beyond the humanity of it. You have to go beyond the errors that people make, because we all make mistakes, and it's what you do after you make that mistake. And Sam's redeemed himself. He really has.
Awesome. And you can offer what you don't have. And if you receive forgiveness from God, you can offer forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And like I say, I am blessed. If anybody says, is there a God? I know that there's God. I have faith. I know it.
Amen. 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 And it's like, I mean, Sam Houston could have probably been a top 10. He was a great wrestler.
He was. But he liked to socialize more than he wanted to. It was just his body type. He just had the body that what he's got now is what he's on. You were not, unless, I think even if he took 6 months off and all he did was eat and lift weights, he still wouldn't have been that big. Because look at Jake. Jake and him have the same exact body, only Jake's like 6'6" and Sam's like 6'3". You know, it's just, they're big guys, but they're not muscular guys. And they would never, the only problem is I've noticed with weightlifters, if you've got short arms and legs, you bulk up a lot better. But Sam and Jake, they've got these long arms and legs, and you got to lift that weight up so far, you don't get that tight, packed muscle like you do whenever you've got shorter arms and legs.
What I liked about Jake Roberts, though, is that, like you said, he's not muscular, but he told you how to talk, how to move.
Mm-hmm. He had the
that.
DDT, and the DDT was devastating, because anybody that knows that if you grab somebody by their head and fall back, you're going to hurt them. So the DDT was definitely a hold that, even though you may not be this big, huge, muscular guy and you can't fight, if you grab that DDT, you were done for.
And he brought a snake with him also, so
exactly.
So
and whenever he did the DDT Cruel But Fair, that actually came. I went to a Rod Stewart concert whenever I was working the Sportatorium, and I snuck out and went back and went to the concert, and I got a T-shirt that had Rod Stewart's picture on it. It said Cruel But Fair, so he was like, DDT, Cruel But Fair. So that's where he got the Cruel But Fair, was off of my Rod Stewart T-shirt.
Oh wow. And how long have you been remarried? How long have you been with your current husband?
Chad and I got married, and I'll get this right this time, because don't mess up your anniversary. They say guys mess up anniversaries all the time. I do it. That's why I got married on 4th of July, so I'd always remember it, but I forgot the year. No, we've been married since 2017.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. And how does he get along with your girls?
Really well. Both the girls just really like him, and awesome. Chad's got two kids. He's got Marley and Dakota, and then we're raising Dakota's son. So I've got Ryder. Ryder's 9 years old, and then my daughters, they all get along really well. Chad does auto work, like when they need their car fixed, they'll bring their car up here and Chad will fix it for them. So Chad's like the perfect stepdad, because he can fix everything. That's one of the reasons why I really, really love him, because if something breaks, he can fix it. And he's in the business, and and he puts up with so much of my shenanigans. He even though he was a wrestler and he's retired from it, he's had his last match, he really doesn't like me still being in wrestling. He wants me to be Mrs. Bird, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm sorry.
Your husband was a wrestler?
Yes.
Okay.
He worked WCW. He did a lot of indie shows through the Carolinas. He worked a lot with George South and Stallion when they had their promotion. He wrestled for, I guess he started like early 90s, so almost 20 years.
And he wrestles as Chad Bird?
Chad Bird. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. And you say you didn't want you involved in wrestling. So you're still in wrestling?
Oh my gosh. I think I did 24 events last year. I've got New Jersey, the 80s WrestleCon coming up the first weekend of May up in New Jersey. Then I've got Rockingham, North Carolina, which is about 3 hours down the road from me. It's at the racetrack in Rockingham. We're not at the racetrack, but Rockingham is a big NASCAR racetrack. Then in June, I'm going to Utah. Samantha Starr, my daughter, and her husband, Bosworth, are going to be in Utah in June. July, I'm going to Lubbock. Yay! I get Whataburger. Yeah. And then August, I've got The Gathering in Charlotte for T-Mart Promotions. I've got Virginia in October. And then WrestleCade in November.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy.
That's awesome.
And I sold out of my Slam Buddies, so I need to order some more Slam Buddies. And then I've got T-shirts coming up, and I've got a really cool design. I've been talking with some people about the first time since 1985 I'm going to have a T-shirt, so it's going to be cool.
That's so cool. What are your thoughts that Jim Crockett? They're doing the Jim Crockett the tournament.
Oh, the Jim Crockett Tag Team Tournament?
Yeah,
absolutely love it. I was part of it last year.
And they're bringing it here to Forney.
Right. Yeah, my daughter's going to be there. Really? I love it. I think it's. I love the way Billy Corgan absolutely loves wrestling, and you can tell it. I think it's very special. I mean, you've got promoters that promote wrestling that they're just in it for the money, and that's fine. I mean, that's good because we're all in it for the money. But then there's those of us who love it. Billy Corgan really loves it. He wants to put out a really good product. He wants to showcase really good athletes. He's perfect for this. I mean, it's we just need to push NWA more. They have some really good talent with EC3. You've got Silas. The girls division is fire. You've got Kenzie Phillips, their NWA women's champion. You had Camille, who was a champion before. Oh my gosh, she's stunning. Natalia Markova, the girl from Russia, such a good athlete and so pretty. And then you've got my daughter, Samantha Starr, who is definitely going to win some titles this year. I guarantee it.
Okay, so you said your daughter is a wrestler?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
I have.
So I heard you mention. I said,
you need to get out from underneath your rock. Yes, my daughter Samantha Starr has been wrestling. Hold on.
I did not know that was your daughter. And okay, so I heard you mention. I said, did I catch that correctly? So I'm going to go to
Sam and I have two daughters. Yeah. Micah and Michaela. Micah is a musician. Michaela is a wrestler. Michaela started wrestling 2014 maybe. She was 13, 14. She was traveling with me, doing shows. She was really good at working my merch table. And she learned a lot because she traveled with me from like 2006 to like 2013, whenever she took her first bump. We were working shows down in Orangeburg, South Carolina, for CWA. And some of the guys were like, hey, you want to get in the ring? We could take some bumps. And so she came and asked me, and okay. Because I knew it was coming. I just didn't know. So they got her in the ring and had her take some bumps. And do some rolls and the whole thing, like what you do your first time.
Mhm.
And the next day she was so sore, she couldn't lift her head up off the pillow. She was like, Mom, she's like, I'm so sore. And trying to help her and talk to her. And she says, when can I get in the ring again? That's it. She's hooked. Because if you can get over that and over that pain and in your brain, because the main thing with being a wrestler, everybody wants to be a wrestler. Everybody thinks that they can be a wrestler. Oh, it's easy. Just do some falls and some bumps. It's just easy. But since you were a small child, you've taught yourself to not to fall. Falling hurts. So whenever you get older, your brain is going, why am I falling? But when you wrestle, you have to learn how to fall and fall really hard. You can't fall like a douchebag. Like my mom said, you have to fall and you have to slam and hit hard and make that noise so that everybody can hear it. But your brain goes, first couple of bumps you take, your brain just shuts off and it will not let you fall again. You have to get your brain to turn on to a different circuit to where you do take those falls and you learn and you fall really hard. And that's one of the hardest things to overcome as a wrestler is learning how to bump and take those really hard falls. Because your body doesn't want to. Your brain doesn't want to.
So you have no thoughts of coming to the Forney event?
I might if they invited me. I would love to. I would love to be at more of the NWA shows, but I have a 9-year-old and 50 chickens, so traveling sometimes is not in the cards for me.
I hear Ricky Morton's going to be there because his son is going to be wrestling. So
Ricky's part of the NWA office, and so he's part of their promotion. So Ricky is almost always there. Ricky is such a good guy. He's helped my daughter a lot, and I love Kerry. Oh my gosh, I've known Kerry since I've got a picture of Kerry with him up on my shoulder. I'm holding him on my shoulder. I think he was maybe 6 or 7 at the time.
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the show with my son.
Oh, you should. It's really good. The talent is amazing. The talent is absolutely amazing. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed.
I love wrestling. It's changed so much. So I prefer the NWA, like the indie shows over WWE, and it's changed so much. I mean, it's not like it used to be. It's not like it used to be.
If you love professional wrestling, this is definitely a perfect time in history, because between WWE, AEW, NWA, and Indies, and you've even got like ROH and Maryland Championship Wrestling, there's a lot of promotions out there that have got so many guys. I mean, when I look back at it, like I was pretty much the only girl for a really long time, and now there's literally thousands of girls.
All right. Great. Before I let you go, yeah, it is. Before I let you go, I'm gonna mention some names. Tell me the first thing you that pops to your head. Okay.
Okay.
Ric Flair.
Greatest of all time. There's no one could have been chosen to hold that title that was better than he was, because he represented all of us, and he still does. I love it because even now he's got the Ric Flair drip, and you see him out on Tampa Bay in the boat, and he's dancing with the girls. Flair's living the best life. I absolutely love it.
Dusty Rhodes.
On the mic, there is no one better. Loves the sport, made hundreds of people millions of dollars. Just a genius. A genius.
Eddie Gilbert.
Oh my gosh, Eddie. That was one I didn't expect. To this day, I miss him. He whenever I do the Fan Fest and the Legend shows, Eddie Gilbert and Ray Traylor, our boss man, are the two that I really, really, really wish could still be here. Eddie was just a good guy to me. The last time I saw him, we were at a show in Philadelphia, and he carried my bags into the building. And he and Missy used to live right down the road from us, like 2 blocks when we lived in Euless. Lived 2 blocks down from us when we lived in Euless. So and I knew his dad, Johnny Starr. Johnny refereed for my dad up in Lubbock for years. Wow. Good wrestling family.
Yeah, they are. Rock and Roll Express. Ricky and Robert.
No one got a bigger pop than when they play. And even to this day, whenever you hear the music come up, oh my gosh, fans go crazy. Even to this day, they are one of the best matches on the card. I love working with them. I just worked a show in March in Ohio with them. It's always a workout because you're working that crowd all the time and clapping and cheering, and Ricky's selling, and you're bringing them up and hoping that the people, get with us. And she just ultimate baby faces.
Yeah. Road Warriors.
Oh,
Water Rush.
You're over. Whenever I had the show in Raleigh and I had to run down and I missed the cue because there were so many people, I couldn't get to the ring on time. And so Cornette had to make like one more loop around the ring, and then he didn't know I was there, and I hit him. And Hawk went, "Nice shot, doll." I knew I was over with the Road Warriors right there. And then there's a picture of me. There was we were going to a show, Big Time Wrestling. We'd gone from WrestleCade to Big Time Wrestling, and my husband loves Harley Davidsons, and he says that he's only got 5 bikes. It's more like 7 or 10. I've lost count. He just loves bikes. So we were riding the Street Glide from WrestleCade to Spartanburg to work Big Time Wrestling, and so we're on the bike. And Road Warrior comes up behind us and takes a picture. So one of the pictures that I have with my husband on the bike, Road Warrior Animal took it.
Wow, very cool. Very cool. What about Barry Windham?
Oh my gosh. What can't you say about him? I mean, it's such a good baby face, such a good heel.
Awesome heel.
Was perfect for the 4 Horsemen. I mean, just the perfect fit. That was a good call on that one. Barry really rounded that out. Barry's just one of those good guys that you can't say enough good things about him. He's just a good wrestler, good guy, believable, had the size, had the strength, had the look. Great.
Last one, Ole Anderson. I know we just lost him not that long ago.
Right. Ole was okay. What's really funny? Okay, let me do the old. One of the, I want to say AEW guys got roasted because he wore an Ole Anderson t-shirt, and Twitter was all up in arms about how can you wear that shirt? He's a racist. Da 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 da. And the guy took the shirt off. And I went, Ole would have called you, forgive my language, a pussy for taking that shirt off. Because if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And it was like, you wore the shirt. He's a legend. Oh, he's a racist. How is he a racist whenever he booked Thunderbolt Patterson over and over and wrestled him and the whole thing? I mean, wrestling is not for everybody, and it's pretty obvious. But Ole was as gruff and as awful as people say he was worse. I mean, because he got mad because Cornette and I made more money than he did doing the Great American Bashes. But then we were over. We were one of the 6-man tags. Cornette and I were over. Cornette said that he made more money the month of July '86 than he ever did in his whole career. He made working against me. Well, how are you going to fault somebody for making money and drawing a house? You're on the same card. We're all making money. Let's enjoy this. But he got mad at Cornette and I because we weren't wrestlers and we were making more money than he was.
I used to love Jim Cornette. I used to love Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was awesome. He's great.
He's still great. I love his podcast. Yeah. I love it. I'm not so much into his political views. His political views are a little off.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're good. But we can sure talk wrestling.
Let me ask you, did you ever have the opportunity to work with, were you given the opportunity to work with WWF? Now WWE?
No, I did have a
Would you?
tryout. I didn't know it was a tryout at the time. I got in the ring with Lolani Kai. Rockin' Robin actually got the spot, which is perfect because she and Sherry had such good matches. It was so cool for all of us because Grizz, Jake, Robin, Sam, and myself were all traveling together there for a while for WWE. So um, I had a chance, but I also heard that I wasn't what they were looking for. I was too regional. I was um, too southern, I guess is how it was put. I was too southern and too country, and I wouldn't have a mass appeal, is what I heard. So I look at it this way: I'm fine. I made my mark. If I'd gone to WWF or it was WWF at the time, but WWE, um, they might have killed my character of Baby Doll. And right now, Baby Doll is, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better career. I mean, it was for being in the business like right at 2 years, like what I was, and even working with Zabisco, I couldn't have asked for a better career, to work with better people. If I'd gone to WWE, they might have done what they did with Terry Taylor and Lex Luger and the guys that were coming up from Crockett, and put them in kind of carny gimmicks and make fun of us. And I'm good. I'm good. You know,
That's all.
I'm
That
good.
yeah, I
The
can't
one
agree
thing,
with you. I can't agree with you more. If it's what they did with Terry Taylor, I did not like.
the one thing I would like to say, and I'm not sure if Hunter will ever see this or Stephanie, is that I wanted to say thank you for making all of the Crockett tapes available and to buying up these libraries. Um, it's very special for my girls to be able to watch my videos and YouTube and the whole thing because they've released all that. I would like to say thank you to Vince and Triple H and Stephanie for making all of that available because that's really cool, especially for everyone because like they could have bought up the whole libraries and stashed them away and nobody gotten to see them, but they really have made a lot of things available. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I do agree with that. That they made it available for the old NWA stuff, AWA, WCCW.
Hmm.
So they have made all that available, which
See,
is
and they could have very easily,
buried
um,
them. Yeah.
yeah, hidden them away and just put their product out there and hidden those away like that never happened. But I'm so thankful that they didn't.
What they need to do, offer put you in the Hall of Fame already. Honestly, you
I'm
deserve
good.
it.
I'm good.
You,
I'm good.
you,
I'm good.
you
I'm good.
but you deserve it. But you deserve it.
Well,
Honestly.
there's a lot of others that should go before me, and if they do, could they do it before I die so I could enjoy it? But otherwise, I'm all right.
Just a couple more questions before I let you go.
Okay, we're good.
What was your favorite angle? What was your favorite angle that you've been a part of? That you were a part of? What was your favorite angle of all time of your entire
Um,
career?
the build up to the I Quit match. Truly,
Yeah.
that was it. Everything worked. Magnum against Tully, they actually didn't like each other, and it came across. The promos, the handing Tully the roll of quarters, coming down in the policeman's outfit. Um, everything worked. I mean, that's part of Dusty's genius right there, is he made everything work and everything built up towards this I Quit match that, in my opinion, to this day, is the best match ever in the history of wrestling.
That was another great rival. I mean, everything Tully was a part of was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Tully was a very
And
special wrestler.
Baby Doll just made it a little bit better.
And your involvement in everything was awesome. Not blowing smoke, up, but honestly, that's why one of the reasons why I've been dying to get you on is, just to hear your stories. And last question: what is your Mount Rushmore, or who is your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Oh my gosh. Terry
Your
Funk.
last one, your last one could be interchangeable.
Right. Terry Funk. Give me a second here because I have like 6 decades to go through of guys that I've seen. Terry for sure. Have to put Dusty. Have to put Flair. I don't know who would be a third one. Because there's so freaking many of them that are just so good. Terry, Dusty, Flair. I couldn't name a third one because there's so many.
There's a lot. There is a lot.
And then my mind goes blank, so I can't really think. I would choose 2, and that would be Tully and Arn. Brainbusters. So you got Terry, Flair, Dusty, and a tag team would be Tully and Arn.
Arn Anderson was so much fun to watch.
Yes,
he does not get the credit he deserves.
I'm giving him credit now because I can't put Arn in there by himself, but I can put Arn and Tully together. They were amazing.
One of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Unfortunately, it didn't last as long as it should have, but it was good. It was really good. Yeah. So there's my Mount Rushmore.
That's awesome. That's good. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ms. Roberts. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family. You know, this was a true honor for me. Honestly, it was.
Well, thank you. It's an honor for me that you guys remember me. It's an honor that you guys want to listen to my stories. I mean, it was such a short time, but it was such a cool time. And it was just, there's nothing else like it. I mean, times have changed so much. Times are supposed to change, but I definitely was in the very, very best time. And it was cool. It was good.
And as a fan, I never get tired of watching those old videos. I don't.
Right. It's good.
I'm constantly. I'd rather watch that than what's on TV.
I like it
today.
when they have the commercials still, when they do the videos and the commercials come up through, because it was crazy because like I had boxes and boxes of VHS tapes because we were never home. So you program the VCR and hopefully like they get all the shows and hopefully like the baseball games wouldn't run over. So you had 2 hours of baseball instead of 2 hours in wrestling. So I had boxes and boxes of tapes, but we never had chance to, because you're always on the road. And whenever you do get home, you're not going to sit there and watch wrestling. So it wasn't until I met a friend of mine back in like 2005, and he was watching wrestling, and I'm in cooking or something or cleaning, and I kept hearing the same match over and over again. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, well, here's what I do. He says, I watch the left side of the crowd, and then I watch the right side of the crowd, and then I kind of watch all of it. And he says, but I watch mostly the crowd to see the reaction. So he was like scoping out the tapes, like picking up, different angles of and how look, instead of just watching the match, he was watching the crowd. So I started like getting back into it and watching, like the wrestling shows, and especially with YouTube coming up and internet, which everybody's got internet and YouTube now, but back, like early 90s, like the 90s and stuff, there wasn't anything like that. So to be brought in and being able to see everything, it's really cool. And it's cool to remember like outfits that I had made and different places we were at, and like how I could always tell like buildings where I had electricity, where I could do my hair when I didn't have electricity because my hair was flat. So it's kind of fun to go back and watch.
Well, thanks again for joining me. Like I said, God bless you.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I'll see you in 20. You'll never know. You never know. NWA might send me a ticket and I'll be there, and you'll have to buy me a Whataburger.
I will. Definitely will.
And a number 2, no cheese, no tomatoes, grilled jalapenos.
Take care, Ms. Roberts.
Yes, I
God
should be a
bless you.
spokesman for Whataburger.
You should, 'cause
I
listen,
should be a spokesman for Whataburger because that's
you
all I talk
mentioned it.
about.
You mentioned it to me. While we were messing each other back and forth. You know, my kids love Whataburger. I'm not a fan. Honestly speaking, I'm not a fan. I do like the sweet and spicy. It's the only one I like.
Okay.
I
See,
can't
my
get
kids,
enough
we
of
grew
the
up
sweet and
with it. My
spicy.
kids love them. We had a Whataburger right down the road from us when my kids were little, and that was always a treat to go get them. So it's
Well, they're a Texas staple. They are a
absolutely
Texas staple, and you know, and God bless them. But I really do like the sweet and spicy.
right. But you're just not a fan. See, I'm like a huge fan. I always have been. So,
And my kids love them too. But if you do come to Forney, I promise you,
I got a hookup. Okay, I got you. I got you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate you so much. And tell Mike I said hey.
I will.